Thomas Jefferson's story begins in the quiet, rolling landscapes of Albemarle County, Virginia. Born on April 13, 1743, at a plantation named Shadwell, he entered a world shaped by nature, frontier life, and the rising tensions of colonial America. His childhood home stood near forests and flowing streams, surrounded by the warm sunlight of rural Virginia. From his earliest days, Jefferson found comfort in the natural world. The whispering trees, the open fields, and the gentle hills became the background of his imagination. His father, Peter Jefferson, was a strong and respected surveyor, planter, and leader in the community. Known for his courage and skill, Peter shaped the early lessons of responsibility and hard work in young Thomas. His mother, Jane Randolph Jefferson, came from one of Virginia's most distinguished families. Her refined manners, cultural education, and deep intellect influenced Jefferson's tastes, values, and personality. Growing up in a large household with 6 sisters and 1 brother, Jefferson lived between the rough honesty of frontier life and the elegance of colonial society. This blend of influences shaped his character in profound ways. Although naturally shy, he had a quiet intensity and a deep curiosity about the world. He often spent hours walking alone through the woods, observing plants, birds, and the movement of the wind. Nature became his lifelong inspiration and emotional refuge. Education played a central role in Jefferson's life. From an early age, he studied reading, writing, arithmetic, Latin, Greek, and French. Books became his constant companion. He devoured poems, philosophical essays, scientific works, and histories of ancient civilizations. His tutors described him as a silent but brilliant student, someone who absorbed knowledge with unusual depth. But at the age of 14, tragedy struck. His father died suddenly. Jefferson felt the loss deeply. With Peter's death, Thomas inherited land and responsibility far beyond his years. It marked the beginning of an early maturity and a deeper understanding of independence. Even through grief, Jefferson continued his studies. He soon entered the classical school of Reverend James Maury, a place that transformed his intellectual world. At Maury's school, Jefferson studied classical literature, mathematics, and philosophy. The works of Homer, Virgil, and Cicero widened his imagination. Maury's teachings strengthened Jefferson's moral sense and introduced him to Enlightenment principles: reason, justice, human rights, and the idea that all individuals are born with natural freedoms. These concepts took root in his mind. By his late teens, Jefferson had grown into a tall, slender young man, more than 6 feet in height, quiet but confident. In 1760, he entered the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, the political and cultural center of colonial Virginia. For the first time, he stepped into a world of influence, debate, and powerful ideas. The streets of Williamsburg, the governor's palace, the House of Burgesses, the bustling taverns opened new horizons for him. At the college, Jefferson studied science, mathematics, philosophy, ethics, and political theory. His most influential teacher was Dr. William Small, who introduced him to the teachings of John Locke, Isaac Newton, and Francis Bacon. These thinkers shaped Jefferson's worldview, teaching him that reason should guide society and that liberty was a universal right. Jefferson later said Dr. Small was one of his greatest influences of his life. Through Dr. Small, Jefferson met Governor Francis Fauquier, a cultured, musical, and intellectually curious leader. Fauquier invited Jefferson to private dinner gatherings filled with discussions about science, government, and philosophy. These conversations helped Jefferson develop confidence, the art of debate, and clarity in expressing ideas. The future statesman was slowly forming. Jefferson also explored the courts and political halls of Williamsburg. He carefully observed how laws were made and how power operated. From these experiences, he began imagining a future in public service. Outside his formal studies, he nurtured personal passions. He practiced the violin daily and became an accomplished musician. Music brought him peace and expression. He also developed a love for architecture. Buildings designed with perfect symmetry and classical beauty fascinated him. These early interests would later shape Monticello and the University of Virginia. After 2 years at the college, Jefferson began studying law under George Wythe, one of the most respected legal minds in the colonies. Wythe taught Jefferson not only law, but moral integrity, intellectual discipline, and a deep respect for justice. Under his mentorship, Jefferson studied natural rights theory, British common law, and colonial legal traditions. He developed a belief that laws must exist to protect individual freedoms, a belief that would one day echo through the Declaration of Independence. Jefferson read tirelessly, often 15 hours a day. His dedication paid off when he passed the bar and became a licensed lawyer in 1767. He practiced law across Virginia, arguing cases involving property rights, inheritance, and justice. His manner was calm, logical, and precise. Though not dramatic, Jefferson earned respect for his thoughtful reasoning and deep knowledge. Alongside his legal career, Jefferson managed his inherited lands. He oversaw plantations, farming operations, and household affairs. Plantation life exposed him to the harsh realities of slavery, a contradiction he wrestled with intellectually and morally throughout his life. In 1768, he began designing and building Monticello, his lifelong architectural project. Built on a hilltop, Monticello reflected his love of order, harmony, and classical form. As the 1770s unfolded, tensions between the colonies and Britain grew. New taxes, restrictive policies, and British authority angered many colonists. Influenced by Enlightenment ideas, Jefferson believed in natural rights and self-government. He began writing essays supporting colonial resistance, and his reputation as a political thinker grew. He entered the Virginia House of Burgesses, marking his official entry into public life. Although quiet, Jefferson earned respect for his intelligence and strong principles. His early writings focused on liberty, justice, and the inherent rights of all men. In 1774, he wrote a summary view of the rights of British America, boldly declaring that the colonies were not subjects of Parliament, but free communities tied only to the king. The document spread quickly, establishing Jefferson as a leading voice of resistance. By 1775, as the Revolutionary War began, Jefferson was chosen as a delegate to the Second Continental Congress in Philadelphia. His colleagues admired him as a brilliant thinker and gifted writer. In June 1776, when Congress prepared to declare independence, Jefferson was selected to draft the document. Working alone in a small rented room, he wrote one of history's most powerful political statements. He declared that all men are created equal, that they possess unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. His words carried courage, clarity, and vision. On July 4, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was adopted, marking the birth of a new nation and forever linking Jefferson's name with freedom.
As Jefferson stepped deeper into the world of public affairs, his vision for America grew clearer, sharper, and more ambitious. He saw a nation that could rise beyond the limits of monarchy and stand as a beacon of liberty for all humankind. He believed the young republic needed strong moral foundations rooted in reason, education, and civic responsibility. Though soft-spoken in manner, Jefferson's words carried immense weight, echoing across the political centers of early America. His ideas inspired, challenged, and sometimes unsettled those around him. Yet no one could deny his brilliance or the depth of his commitment to the country's future. During the years following the Revolution, Jefferson's role evolved rapidly. He served as the governor of Virginia during one of the most critical and chaotic periods of the war. His leadership faced immense challenges, from British invasions to internal divisions. Though criticized at times for his cautious decisions, Jefferson remained steadfast in his belief in Republican ideals. When the war ended, his diplomatic and intellectual skills became invaluable to the new nation. He was sent to France, where he succeeded Benjamin Franklin as the American minister. France transformed him. He walked the grand avenues of Paris, absorbing its culture, its architecture, its philosophy. He studied science, art, agriculture, and political theory with equal passion. Jefferson forged friendships with leading minds of the Enlightenment. He admired the French people's desire for reform, yet feared the violent path their revolution eventually took. His time in Europe broadened his worldview while deepening his love for America. When he returned home, he found himself drawn into yet another chapter of national service. George Washington, the first president, asked him to serve as the nation's first Secretary of State. He accepted, though reluctantly, for he preferred the quiet life of Monticello. Soon he found himself in the heart of political conflict. He clashed with Alexander Hamilton, Washington's Treasury Secretary, over the direction of the new republic. Hamilton envisioned a strong centralized government, allied with wealthy financiers. Jefferson envisioned a decentralized nation, rooted in agriculture, freedom, and states' rights. Their rivalry shaped the birth of America's first political parties. Hamilton's followers became the Federalists. Jefferson's supporters became the Democratic Republicans. The ideological battle between them defined early American politics. Despite their differences, Jefferson admired Hamilton's energy and intellect, but he feared a government that leaned too heavily toward elite power. He believed such a system would betray the spirit of the Revolution. Throughout this period, Jefferson wrote passionately, seeking to guide the nation toward what he believed was the true path of liberty. By the mid-1990s, political tensions rose so sharply that Jefferson resigned from Washington's cabinet. He returned to Monticello, hoping for peace and retreat. But the nation would not allow him to stay hidden for long. His political influence was far too great. In 1796, he was elected vice president under John Adams. It was an awkward partnership, for Adams and Jefferson held very different visions for America. Yet Jefferson carried out his duties with dignity, carefully observing the new government's struggles. During this time, he authored the Kentucky Resolutions, asserting that states had the right to challenge unjust federal laws. This idea later influenced many debates on constitutional interpretation. The election of 1800 became one of the most intense and transformative contests in American history. Jefferson and Adams faced each other once again, their political rivalry at its peak. The campaign was fierce, filled with accusations, pamphlets, and bitter editorials. But Jefferson maintained a calm confidence in the will of the people. When the results came in, Jefferson tied with Aaron Burr, his own running mate. This unexpected tie threw the election into the House of Representatives. For days, the country waited anxiously as representatives voted again and again. Eventually, Jefferson secured victory, becoming the third president of the United States. His election was seen as a peaceful revolution, power transferred without violence, a rare achievement at that time. As president, Jefferson sought to bring simplicity, harmony, and moderation to the government. He walked to his inauguration instead of riding in a carriage. He delivered his speech in a calm, unifying tone, declaring, "We are all Republicans, we are all Federalists." His administration began with the vision of reducing governmental excess and restoring Republican purity. But the world around him was changing quickly. The French leader Napoleon Bonaparte offered an extraordinary opportunity, the Louisiana Territory. Jefferson hesitated, unsure whether the Constitution allowed such a massive purchase. Yet he recognized the magnitude of the moment. The Louisiana Purchase doubled the size of the United States. It opened vast lands for exploration, settlement, and future generations. Jefferson immediately commissioned the Lewis and Clark expedition. He hoped not just to map the land, but to study its plants, animals, rivers, and native nations. He filled pages with instructions, questions, and scientific curiosity. To him, exploration was not simply expansion, it was a deep quest for knowledge. Throughout his presidency, Jefferson faced both triumphs and trials. International conflict tested his ideals. The struggle between Britain and France placed American trade in danger. Jefferson attempted diplomatic solutions, including the Embargo Act, but these efforts often brought economic hardship and political backlash. Despite the criticism, Jefferson remained committed to peaceful strategies over warfare. He believed that America must not fall into the patterns of European empires. Instead, he envisioned a republic strengthened by education, science, and civic virtue. His second term proved more difficult than the first. Political divisions deepened. The Embargo Act angered merchants and citizens. But Jefferson accepted the weight of his decisions, knowing leadership required patience and sacrifice. Near the end of his presidency, he looked toward the future with hope. He believed the nation would continue to grow, adapt, and rise to its greatest potential. He retired once more to Monticello, eager for a quieter life filled with books, family, gardens, and architecture. Yet even in retirement, his influence continued. Visitors from across the world came to see him. Students, politicians, inventors, and travelers sought his wisdom. Jefferson welcomed them with warmth, offering guidance, debate, and insight. Jefferson's middle years reflect a man navigating power, conflict, responsibility, and vision. A man torn between public duty and private life. A man striving to shape America not only through policies, but through principles. His journey was far from over, but the foundations he built during these years would shape the destiny of a nation.
In the final chapter of Thomas Jefferson's life, the man who once shaped the destiny of a young nation shifted his focus toward shaping the future of knowledge, culture, and civic responsibility. His years after the presidency were quieter, but no less meaningful. Monticello became a gathering place for ideas, invention, and conversation. Visitors described him as warm, curious, and endlessly engaged with the world. He rose early, spent hours reading, and corresponded with friends and leaders across the nation. Books remained his closest companions. He believed that learning never ceased, that wisdom was a lifelong journey. One of Jefferson's most enduring passions was architecture. He walked through Monticello's halls with pride, adjusting designs, refining measurements, and improving every detail. To him, architecture was a form of expression, a living symbol of enlightenment. The columns, domes, windows, and gardens reflected his belief in order, beauty, and harmony. But the project closest to his heart was the University of Virginia. He envisioned a place where young minds could study freely, without the rigid traditions of older institutions. He wanted a university based on reason, science, and open inquiry. Jefferson personally designed the campus layout, selecting every structure with purpose. He wanted students to learn in an environment that inspired creativity rather than fear. To him, education was the foundation of a free society. The university's construction became the great mission of his final years. He monitored every detail, from brickwork to curriculum. He wrote to scholars across the world, gathering knowledge to build the library. He argued that a single good book could change the direction of a nation. When the university finally opened, Jefferson considered it one of the proudest achievements of his life. But beyond his public ambitions, Jefferson's private world was filled with complexities. Monticello, though beautiful, was burdened by financial strain. Debts from years of public service weighed heavily on him. He struggled to balance the costs of maintaining the estate, supporting his family, and caring for the enslaved individuals who lived there. This contradiction between his ideals and his ownership of enslaved people remains one of the most debated aspects of his legacy. Jefferson spoke of liberty with unmatched eloquence, yet the institution of slavery persisted on his own land. Historians continue to grapple with this tension. He dreamed of a nation built on equality, yet he never fully resolved the moral conflict of slavery. It is a reminder that even the greatest minds carry flaws and contradictions. Jefferson himself admitted that slavery was a moral and political depravity, but he feared the consequences of immediate abolition. His failure to act decisively on this issue left a shadow that history continues to examine. Despite the burdens of the world, Jefferson found joy in family, friends, and nature. He spent afternoons walking through Monticello's orchards, studying plants with scientific curiosity. He experimented with crops, seeds, and gardening techniques. He believed the land was both a teacher and a companion. His love for agriculture remained constant, a reminder of the simple values he cherished. As the years passed, letters between Jefferson and John Adams, once bitter political rivals, grew warm and philosophical. The two old statesmen reflected on their shared struggles, victories, and losses. Their correspondence became a treasure of American history, a conversation between two giants nearing the end of their journey. They debated religion, government, human nature, and the unpredictable course of the nation they helped create. Their renewed friendship stood as proof that time can heal even the deepest political wounds. Jefferson's health began to decline in his 80s. He faced pain, weakness, and fatigue, but his mind remained sharp. Even as his strength faded, he continued writing letters, offering advice, and reflecting on the revolution he helped shape. He expressed pride in the nation's progress, but also concern for its future. He warned against political division, corruption, and ignorance. He urged future generations to safeguard liberty through education and civic engagement. As the 50th anniversary of American independence approached, Jefferson grew increasingly reflective. He spoke with family about the meaning of freedom, the sacrifices of the Revolution, and the enduring promise of the Declaration of Independence. That document, born from his pen, had traveled far beyond his imagination. It had inspired movements around the world, giving hope to people yearning for justice. On July 4, 1826, the Golden Jubilee of American independence, Thomas Jefferson passed away at Monticello. He died just hours before John Adams, his friend, rival, and companion in history. Their deaths on the same historic day seemed almost poetic. It was as if the two architects of the American experiment had chosen to exit the stage together, leaving a nation forever changed by their ideas. Jefferson's funeral was simple, just as he wished. There were no grand ceremonies, no extravagant displays. He requested to be buried on a quiet hill at Monticello, marked by a plain stone. And on that stone, he asked for only 3 achievements to be written: author of the Declaration of Independence, founder of the University of Virginia, and author of the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom. He did not include President of the United States. To Jefferson, ideas mattered more than titles.